Hello guys and gals and welcome. Welcome. So I've been doing a lot of tutorial videos and I figure one of the tutorials that I should probably really do is a tutorial based on ascendancies. So ascendancies are gained by one of two places right now. Eventually three. They currently have a third ascendancy spot. It's this one right here. It's the Eye of Hinekora. And I'm pretty sure that the third ascendancy will eventually be here. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to entail. But there will be a third ascendancy eventually. The current two methods of ascendancy to gain access to your abilities, your class abilities, are number one, the Trial of Sekhemas, which does require that you complete a certain portion of Act 2 to actually get access to this. So you're going to have to complete basically most of Act 2 up to the point where you gain your Jinn token, which is actually gotten in Trader's Passage, I believe. Try to remember exactly. Yes. So in Trader's Passage, you get Balbala right there. So Balbala. And Balbala is the place essentially where you're going to get your token. Now that's not going to get you, unfortunately, access to the Trial of Sekhemas specifically. To get access to the Trial of Sekhemas specifically, you have to kill Balbala, get the token. And then once you kill Balbala and get the token, you have to complete the quest line up to the point where you fight Jamon Ra for the first time. This is the time where he runs away and he goes into the distance and he makes all the wind blow. And she says, we have to return to the caravan. Once you defeat Jamon Ra for the first time, then you go back to the caravan. And you're going to get access to the map. So you're going to go over to the map and you're going to travel to the Trial of Sekhemas. All right. So we're going to travel over there to the Trial of Sekhemas. At this point, once you have traveled over to the Trial of Sekhemas, you are going to get access to the area and the waypoint, and you can come back whenever you please. The Trial of Sekhemas is an interesting trial that is designed around the idea of a roguelite game. You're going to talk to Balbala here. You're going to put your token in this Dujank, and apparently, do I already have a token in here? What the hell's going on? I must have already started one by accident. Yes, okay. So you need a token. You're given one to start out with for your first trial. And you can go in here and you can do the Trial of Sekhemas. I'll talk about the Trial of Sekhemas in more detail in just a bit, but we're going to talk about the other way that you can potentially ascend as well, which is the Trial of Chaos. The Trial of Chaos is in Act 3, and you do not get access to the Trial of Chaos until you reach the Chimeral Wetlands. And in the Chimeral Wetlands, which is from Ziggurat Encampment, you actually start at the Sandswept Marsh, you go to the Ziggurat Encampment, and once you're in the Ziggurat Encampment, you go to Jungle Ruins, then you go to the Infested Barrens, then you travel to the Chimeral Wetlands, and in the Chimeral Wetlands, you will find the Chaos Sanctuary area. Chaos Sanctuary. You will find the Chaos Ascendancy Zone. It looks like I don't have the Ascending Chaos Ascendancy Zone, so I'll take you there. Now, Chaos is a different way of ascending. It's not the same as the traditional method, and it involves a whole different way of going through the game and getting your ascendancy points. Now, the first ascendancy and the second ascendancy are actually pretty easy to get. They're not really hard in any way, shape, or form. You should be able to get the first and second ascendancy on your own with relative ease. The third ascendancy and the fourth ascendancy are more difficult. In my opinion, the third ascendancy is actually kind of easy at this point, but the fourth ascendancy is definitely going to be a little bit of a struggle for most players, and usually something that you have to wait till later on to like really get your fourth out of, unless you want to pay for it, and we'll cover that as well. There is a way that you can potentially pay for your ascendancy, and we'll talk about that toward the end. But first off, let's find the Chaos so I can show you the Chaos area. This is a Thorns character, so the monsters are literally just going to kill themselves on my Thorns character. So which one do we find first? This goes one of two ways. It either goes to the boss or it goes to the chaos zone. It looks like we found the boss, so that is the wrong way. Not that we couldn't have fun murdering the boss really quickly. Murder! Okay, so it's got to be the other way. Now, in the Chaos Zone, you get a lot different. It's randomized. It's a lot of randomization in the Chaos area versus this Trial of Sekhemas, which is kind of more planned out and more detail-orientated. And I'm going to talk about the differences between them. We're going to run one of each of them so I can give you an idea of how they function. And hopefully by the time we're finished, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's how it works. So this is the Temple of Chaos. And the Temple of Chaos, you're going to need inscribed insignias. So you need something for both of these. And it will give them to you by default. So keep this in mind. You will get them by default as a matter of course. So it's going to give you one green token that you can use in the Trial of Sekhemas, and it's going to give you one green inscribed ultimatum that you can use inside of these things. Now, let me pull out a couple of these. I have a bunch of these all over the place. Yeah, there's a Djinn Biaria. We've got another Djinn Biaria. Do we have any other Djinn Biarias around here? I think we had a bunch in Quick Swap. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of them in Quick Swap. Nice, okay. Let's see if I can get one of each of the types here. We need a lower level one as well. Nice, okay. So I think we've gotten... we're missing a 2. I think we're missing a 2. There we go. All right. So when you do the Chaos Trial, you have to put in the Inscribed Ultimatum, and there's going to be 3 different forms of Inscribed Ultimatum. One is going to be the number of trials 4, the number of trials 7, or the number of trials 10. And the reason why there's not 4 of these is because the last trial is actually something that you have to earn. And I'll explain this as simple as I can. So every time that you complete a number of trials 10, it's going to give you access to one of these. You can see this up here. It says Victorious. The Victorious one is the token that you're going to receive upon defeating the last boss. And there's actually a bunch of these. If you look at some of the ones that are 10, this one says Deadly, and this one says Cowardly. These are the tokens. You need 3 of these tokens, one of each type, to do the thing. So let's go ahead and grab 3 of these that have the correct modifiers. So we've got Victorious, Cowardly, and Deadly. I can show you these at the vendor. They actually do cost quite a bit if you want to purchase them. But once you get to the end, you'll be presented with a door, which you can put these tokens in, and you can try for your 4th Ascendancy. And they are... I can't remember where they are. On the list. On the list. Here they are right here. So Cowardly Fate, Deadly Fate, and Victorious Fate. These are the 3 that you need. You get one of these guaranteed, basically for completing a Inscribed Ultimatum, and you have to do 3 level 10 Inscribed Ultimatums, or 10 full area Inscribed Ultimatums, to get each of these. And once you have all 3, you can open the final door, and you can potentially get what you're looking for. As you can see, the Victorious Fate costs 789 exalts. They're a little expensive. You can also grab some of the other ones, like the Deadly Fate, which is 750, and they should all be about the same price, to be perfectly honest. So the Cowardly Fate should also be around 750, 650, so a little bit cheaper. There's usually some fluctuation between the prices on these. So in general, when it comes to the Inscribed Ultimatum, to get your 4th Ascendancy, you have to run 3 of these at the end to get your 4th. You only have to run the low-level one once to get your 1st Ascendancy points. You can run the second one to get your second set of Ascendancy points. You run the third one to get your third set of Ascendancy points, and then you have to run 2 more of these to get 2 more tokens to get access to your 4th Ascendancy points, or at least a try at your 4th Ascendancy point. So basically, you get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Ascendancy points total for 4 attempts. One is the one that you get for the Trial of Sekhemas, which they give to you for free, basically, because it's a low-level one and you can do it easily. Then they give you the Trial of Chaos, which is actually not too hard either, which is your second set of Ascendancy points, which brings you up to 4. And then the last 4 points are a little bit more difficult to obtain, and you're going to have to actually work at it. I'm going to show you the Trial of Sekhemas first, and then we're going to go into the Trial of Chaos, and I'll give you an idea of how both of these function. So in the Trial of Sekhemas, one thing that you're going to need is you're going to need the ritual relics. There's actually a relic locker here, and you're going to want to fill up your relic section with specific relics that are going to help you out. So you're going to put your token in here. This is a low-level token. It really doesn't matter. And you're going to put in things like Honor Resistance. Honor Resistance is actually a really important stat for the Trial of Sekhemas. It basically is your life pool, and your life pool does not regenerate. So how this works is you basically get a honor amount based on the amount of life and energy shield that you currently have access to, and that honor, once you take damage, is lost essentially at any point, and it does not come back. Unless you have, something specifically to heal your honor within the actual Trial of Sekhemas. Now, as you can see, you can have a maximum honor resistance of 75%, which means that essentially any damage that comes in will reduce your honor by much less. And this is something that's very important because you essentially want to have a large amount of honor resistance to protect yourself from essentially losing all of your honor. Now, this particular panel grows in size as you complete more and more of the Trial of Sekhemas, and you're going to want to collect as many of these relics as you can, or purchase them off of the trade website to get increased defenses, increased resistances, increasing your maximum honor, and so forth and so on. Now, most of my good relics are on another character, but I'm going to be doing a low-level one just to show you how this thing works, so that you have an idea of essentially how the entire thing functions. Let's just go ahead and throw some random ones in here. It really doesn't matter. An additional room is revealed on the trial map is good, but I don't want to show that to you right this second. Mainly because it doesn't really help me to show you that. Let's put that down there. Let's put you up there. I don't have enough. Huh. No. Just throwing in random ones at this point, and I still don't have enough space. Here's the poopy. This is the poopies. This is all the poopies. Okay, Tetris solved. Apparently I don't have enough doojanks on this thing to... Oh, it's not even rear. That's right. What am I doing? Some of these don't even have 2 mods on them. Item level is too low. Nice. Honor resistance. Alright, so once you have your doojank all decked out and you have all the things that you need, you're going to put your token in. You're going to go ahead and hit confirm, and it's going to open up the Trial of Sekhemas. Now, the first thing that you're going to notice when you come into the Trial of Sekhemas is that you have a special panel down here at the bottom that gives you honor. This honor is your life, and once this runs out, you are dead, whether you die or not. And if you die, you still also die, so don't die, and also don't run out of your honor. Anytime you get hit as a character, you are going to lose honor, and that is going to make you essentially grow lower and lower and lower on the totem pole until eventually you're dead. In this particular case, I'm a Thorns character, so this Trial of Sekhemas does me very poorly. But let me just stand here and see if I lose any honor at all from getting smacked on. Now, one thing that helps out a lot is having mitigations. So if you're a high armor-based character or you have the ability to mitigate large amounts of damage, it definitely helps out. If you have large amounts of energy shield, that helps out obviously as well. Just not taking damage is also good, so avoiding attacks entirely is also great. Now, as you kill monsters, one of the things you're going to notice is this beautiful stuff on the ground. This is called Sacred Water. Sacred Water is something that you're going to want to collect and you're going to want to look for whenever you're in here. You're going to want to click on pots. You're going to want to kill monsters. You're going to want to do everything in your power to collect as much sacred water as you can, because sacred water is extremely useful in the Trial of Sekhemas. It's much more useful than you would ever imagine, and definitely much more useful than I imagined when I first started playing. Now, each room that you go to is going to have specific bonuses which are going to help you or hurt you. And this is one of the most important things about the Trial of Sekhemas is you need to pay attention to what's going on the map. So when you look at the map, you're going to see things like the Sacred Water Fountain, which are going to give you that beautiful sacred water I was talking about. You got keys, which are mainly just monetary gains, which are honestly kind of poopy and not really worth grabbing. You got restoration of honor. If you lost a lot of your honor, you could potentially go that way. But looking beyond this first set, we also have a bunch that have purple, and those purple things are bad things, which are going to make us probably end up dying. We have Season of Famine. Merchant offers 50% fewer choices. This is a horrible option. Do not take this one. We also have 25% less maximum honor. That one's okay-ish, but not great. We have the Merchant only offers one choice, which is horrible. And take 25 physical damage on room completion. This one's actually just fine. That's not a bad option at all. Now, on top of this, you can also see what kind of rooms they are. These say escape trials, which are ones where you have to go through a bunch of traps. This one says chalice trial, which is one where you have to kill a bunch of rare monsters. This is chalice trial, and this one's chalice trial. Now, you can't see any further than that, you notice. So it's hard to plan exactly where you're going, and each one of these rooms tells you how many different places it can potentially go to. So in this particular case, we're going to take the Sacred Water Fountain on the top, and we're going to go up to the escape trial that takes physical damage on room completion, because that one's not too bad for what we're trying to do. We're an armor-based character. We have an extremely large amount of armor, so that 25 physical damage isn't really going to add up to a lot for us, because we're going to mitigate most of that 25 damage, and it's only going to take a little bit of our honor away per room completion, which isn't too bad for us. We're going to go ahead and click on all these things. We're going to get as much sacred water as we can. Try to avoid damage, because obviously any honor damage you take is permanent. Uncut skill gem level 8.
No mana. No mana.
And we're just going to keep hunting for that sacred water too. I will caution you that sometimes it seems like the sacred water doesn't show up on the screen, and you kind of have to run around a little bit to see if you can find it. My big complaint of mine is that the sacred water is very hard to see. And it's definitely 100% true. So we're just going to keep on killing everything that's in this room. Click on all the chests and the pots. I believe we're finished. But make sure we check everything, because there could be some more sacred water. We have 136 sacred water, and now we got 292. Even better. So at this point, now we have access to get to our spike room. We can also see what's coming up next, so we can get a better idea of where we're going. So we've got awards the shrine that greatly restores honor but burdens you with an affliction. This is a positive and a negative at the same time, which is not great. We've got a large sacred water fountain, which can give us a huge boon, but to get that, we have to go through the merchant only offers one choice, which we do not want. Let's take the physical damage on room completion, because everything else seems poopy. This is the trial of the crystals. It's actually really easy. It tells you where the next crystal is. All you have to do is just follow the crystals. It's on a timer, so you pretty much just run between all the crystals. If you want to go back and farm the monsters for sake of crystals after you're done, that is definitely an acceptable thing. But with this particular one, because it's a timer, you don't want to get caught up in fighting a bunch of monsters while you're trying to do a timer. It's much easier to just do the timer and then come back for them later if you need to. Which we are going to have more than enough time here. To save you guys all the trouble, I'm not going to go back and farm the Sacred Water for right now, but normally if I was doing like a high tier run, I would go back and farm for Sacred Water. So at this point, we get to see what's coming up next. We've got Hourglass Trial, 50% reduced honor restored, which is pretty icky. We got a Bronze Key, which I don't really care about. And then we got 2 Sacred Water Fountains. Sounds like a good move. Now, in this trial specifically, because we're only going for the first floor, I believe we did a first floor one, we don't necessarily need a large amount of Sacred Water because we might not get a merchant before the end. But one thing that is very important for you to know about the Trial of Sekhemas is there's always a merchant after the boss. So even if you don't necessarily get access to a merchant on your way there, there's always a merchant after the boss for you to purchase things so you can get something from them. So you are not always taken to the room you select is a horrible option. You do not want that one. That is terrible. There are too many bad options in the game that could potentially break your runs, and the last thing you want is to randomize your Trial of Sekhemas. The other option is room types are unknown. This one's not too bad. Room types is talking about like the actual types, so like Chalice Trial, Escape Trial, Chalice Trial, Hourglass Trial. So you just won't know what types of maps they are, and that's fine. So we're going to take the not knowing what types of maps. That's the easiest one for us. Let's go ahead and do this Hourglass Trial. The Hourglass Trials can be a little bit of a pain in the butt depending on like what character you're on, whether you can kill things effectively. One good tip for the Hourglass Trials is basically this. If you kill the elite monsters, all the elite monsters, the Hourglass Trial ends regardless of how long the timer is on the thing. So if you look for the elite monster and you take out all the elite monsters as quickly as you possibly can, you will kill the timer really fast. And this allows you to get essentially the trial over with quicker. There's an earned relic. Keep your eyes out for relics as you go because you can obviously get better relics, which will enhance your overall performance in the Trial of Sekhemas. And it looks like we have a hourglass. Nice. So, I mean, a merchant. So we're going to go to the merchants. We're going to do this one, and then we're going to go to the merchant. So this one's a really easy one. This one's the summoners. You basically just kill the summoners, break their little portals, and that's pretty much it.
Good riddance.
All right, now at this point we have access to a restore honor and gain a random boon. This is actually really good for us. So we're going to gain a boon up here instead of just an affliction. And we have monsters have 30% less maximum life. That is amazing. That is an amazing bonus. And then we are going to go into the beautiful merchant. So the merchant is where we're going to spend all of our hard-earned sacred water. So we currently have 1,034 sacred water, and the merchants are absolutely amazing in the Trial of Sekhemas. I don't like the Trial of Sekhemas. In fact, I eloquently refer to it as the Trial of Sekhemas. But the merchants are the one silver lining in the horrible, dark cloud of evil, to be perfectly honest, because they really are extremely good. And if you capitalize on the merchants, if you get as much merchant-related doojanks that you possibly can, I think you two will realize that the merchants are a godsend when it comes to the Trial of Sekhemas. And like I said, you get one guaranteed merchant at the end of every boss, right after you kill the boss, and you can get additional merchants as you're going through the run, like this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a look in here and see what she's got for me. I believe this is Balbala anyway. So 50% increased honor restored is a pretty neat, good one for a long-term run. 50% more sacred water found is amazing for a long-term run. That one is absolutely nice. The next 10 non-boss monsters you hit are instantly killed. That one's kind of meh. And then you can also restore some honor. I've got a lot of sacred water, though, so let's grab everything. Let's go ahead and grab the 50% more sacred water. Let's grab the honor restored, and let's also grab the restored honor, so heal ourselves for whatever we have left. And then let's go fight the boss. So with this particular run, it's over after I fight the boss. But normally, if you fight this boss, you're going to go on to the next floor. Every floor is different. It's going to have a different boss at the end, and this boss in particular isn't particularly very strong. I probably should have gone over his mechanics with you guys, but I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The first boss is probably the easiest boss out of the entire lot, and I don't really think most people need help defeating him. He has a lot of big swathing AoE attacks, and for the most part, he kind of sucks.
You are no longer a Jingak.
So once you get to the end, you're going to talk to Balbala, and Balbala has more items for you to purchase. If you are continuing on to the next tier, you're going to get access to essentially a bunch more buffs that you can have. If you're not continuing on to the next tier, she's going to offer you a bunch of relics that you can potentially purchase. And this one is really nice, at 22% increased defenses and 9% honor resistance. That one is absolutely amazing.
For more.
Now, each one of these levels is going to have chests at the end that you can open. There are some pretty good ones in here that usually have to do with jewels. I usually like to open the royal caches that have jewels. You can also potentially trade in all your remaining sacred water for keys if you want to, like this. And now I have some silver keys, and I can open up some random things and see what I come up with. They're usually pretty well themed, so you can try and get stuff that's going to help your particular character, which is nice. And if you do continue to the next level, you're going to do so here. Now, the bosses in the next levels, so if you go to the Number of Trials 2, you're going to be at the one that includes 2 statues. There's going to be a fire and a ice statue, which you're going to have to fight. On the 3rd trial, you're going to have to fight a stupid scorpion that likes to burrow under the ground, and he's really annoying. He's not particularly very difficult. The last trial is the one that is kind of difficult because it takes a long time to get to that particular boss. It is a time boss that has a lot of maneuvers that can potentially kill you if you're not paying attention. But the most annoying of which is basically a thing where she slows down time, and you have to run around collecting the hourglasses. And if you don't collect all the hourglasses, he just one-shots you. And it takes a very long time to get to this particular boss, so getting one-shot by that stupid mechanic is rather frustrating. All in all, when it comes to the Trial of Sekhemas, the best thing to do with the Trial of Sekhemas is to stack as much sacred water as you possibly can. Get as many buffs as you possibly can on your boons. In fact, I think I have a screenshot of one of my crazy runs where I literally had about 10 trillion boons, and I was able to essentially just fly through the entirety of the Trial of Sekhemas because of how many boons I had. And I should be able to pull up the screenshot for you guys. Let's see. Yes, this is one of my more successful runs, and as you can see here, I have monsters deal 20% less damage, 50% more sacred water found, 50% reduced merchant prices. The next time you go below 20% maximum life, restore all life, energy shield, and 50% of your honor. Diverted river, sacred water found on this floor is doubled. Traps are slower. Lustrous pearl, vigorous ichor. Monsters have 15% reduced action speed. Sanguine vial. Monsters have 30% less maximum life. Ornate dagger, you and your minions deal 50% more damage. That's multiplicative. Enchanted urn, 30% increased effect of your non-unique relics, which is massive. It turns all your relics into giant powerhouses. Like if you have something that gives you 22% increased defense, it gives you 30% more of 22%, which is going to be even more defenses, even more armor, even more energy shield, even more evasion. Adrenaline vial to restore 229 of honor upon entering a boss room, and Orbala statuette, you have 25% more maximum honor. And this was just my minor boons. I also had a major boon that revealed the entire map and made it easier for me to see everything. Overall, the vendor cannot be understated. It is the way to win in the Trial of Sekhemas. All of the other ways, everything else that you can do in the Trial of Sekhemas, pales in comparison to all of the crazy buffs that you can get while you're running in the Trial of Sekhemas, and basically purchasing as many of these as you can. Sacred water is king, the merchant is king, and basically planning out your route on the map is very, very important. If you don't plan out your map, you're going to fail. The Ascendancy statue is right here. So this is the Ascendancy statue. When you get here, you're going to click on this, and it's going to give you the ability to choose between your Ascendancy. Can you re-roll your Ascendancy? Yes, you can reroll your Ascendancy by doing the same tier of Ascendancy that you've already completed, and it will allow you to go to a different Ascendancy. So, for instance, if you've only completed the first Ascendancy and you redo the first Ascendancy on on the same character, you can click on the statue again and choose your Ascendancy again. But if you've done the third Ascendancy and you redo it on a number 2, then you won't be able to re-choose. You have to do it on a number 3 if that's the highest that you've completed. And if you've completed the fourth one, then you have to do the fourth Ascendancy again to re-roll your character. The Ascendancies themselves are pretty straightforward, and they're gonna show you panels that look like this, and you're gonna be able to look at all the skills and see what's going on with the Ascendancy before you choose. The other way that you can potentially get your Ascendancy is by going to the Trial of Chaos. Now, the Trial of Chaos is different. It's definitely different, that's for sure. In the Trial of Chaos, you are presented with a room that you have to defeat. The room is usually pretty easy, and for the most part, like, it's not really like a big deal to get through each room. The catch is that each room adds on a random modifier, and those random modifiers get worse and worse and worse as the trials continue. Let's go ahead and open up a 64 one real quick, because I'm not too confident in this particular character's survivability. It was one thing I was working on before I stopped playing with this particular character. Was just trying to get him tanky enough to be able to absorb all the damage. Now, every time you go into a room, they're going to offer you, the Trial Master, he's going to offer you options. This particular one, Pyramid Beams with the Corrupted Bud, I do not recommend taking this one. It is horrible. It is atrocious. And this is one thing that you're going to notice when you try the Trial of Chaos. I don't particularly hate the Trial of Chaos, but there are options in here which will straight up break your run. And you have to know the difference between the ones that will break your run and the ones that won't. And I'll try to go through as many of them as I can right now. So Pyramid Beams is a no. Do not choose Pyramid Beams. Unstoppable monsters. Monsters cannot be slowed or stunned. This one's not terrible. It's not horrible. Stormcaller runes used to be a lot worse than it was. It's actually not too bad now. So I'm actually going to choose Stormcaller runes, and I'll show you how this one functions, and we'll go into it. So Stormcaller runes basically places a rune on the ground, and the rune on the ground requires you to step on the rune to trigger it. It requires a specific amount of time, not just simply you stepping on the rune. You have to step on the rune for a significant period of time to cause the rune to explode, and once you have done that, the rune will call down lightning, which does a massive amount of damage and can potentially kill you, especially if you don't have any lightning resistance. Here's one of the runes right here, and as you can see, I step on it, and it glows, and then eventually it summons down lightning, and it's kind of nasty, to be honest, especially for, like, what it is. But you do have to actually stand on it for a significant period of time to summon the lightning forward. It's not too bad, and it can tear up, and it can get larger and more nasty, but depending on your character, it's usually not awful. In the beginning, when they first did it, the Stormcaller runes never went away, and they just continually stacked forever, and your entire screen would fill up with them to the point where you had absolutely no choice but to die. Like, I'm talking about, like, freaking hundreds of the damn things on the floor, and literally no way for you to get rid of them. But now they're not as bad. So here we have Impending Doom. Impending Doom is really annoying, but it's not too horrible in terms of, like, the game. It basically puts a circle on the ground with another circle inside, and you have to stand inside the inner circle to prevent yourself from dying. It's basically a large buildup with a huge explosion, and as long as you're standing in the right place, you're okay. But in the most part, I really don't like choosing it if I don't have to. Pyramid Beams, again, we already talked about that, and Unstoppable Monsters. In this particular case, I'm probably just going to go with Unstoppable Monsters, because I would rather not have Pyramid Beams or the other one on the screen constantly messing with me.
I'm not ready.
Now, every certain number of rooms, you're going to come in contact with one of the bosses. So there are bosses in this particular area, and the bosses are one of 3 birds. I guess technically the Chimera is a bird. I mean, it's kind of not, but it kind of also is a bird. There's 3 birds, basically, and the 3 birds essentially always show up, but in random order. You never really know which boss you're going to get access to. on the run, but you're always going to fight all 3 if you do a full run of 3 basically room sets, because you'll get each boss at the end of each room set. So once I get to a certain point, I should get access to the first boss, then the third boss, then the fourth boss. The only way that they get extremely difficult is if you choose the wrong mods going up to the chaos. There are some good rewards in here, and there's a lot of really trash rewards. Unfortunately, all the equipment is already corrupted, and since all the equipment is already corrupted, it's basically all garbage. And I mean that. Pre-corrupted means pre-garbage. Like, it's literally garbage before you ever even lay your eyes on it. And the chances of it being any good at all are extremely low. And I really mean that. Extremely low. The rooms usually just involve simple things, like kill all the monsters, click on the talisman, survive for a certain number of seconds. There's one that's kind of annoying that I don't like, which is basically pick up all the little soul core thingies and bring them back to the platform. Not really my favorite one, and it drains your health rather tremendously while you're doing it. As you can see, we've already got our 2 modifiers, and now we're on to our 3rd. So reduce resistances. This reduces my maximum resistances by 10%, which is awful. Blood globules is pretty terrible, and impending doom is pretty terrible. I think I'm going to choose blood globules. Blood globules is essentially a physical damage attack where basically a blood globule appears above your head and chases you around until a certain point where it tries to fall on you. They're pretty easy to avoid for the most part, but they can be rather annoying to deal with because you have to constantly move all the time. This is one of the soul core things, so this is where you have to go collect the soul cores and bring them back to the stone altars. So basically I'm just going to run in a random direction here. There's the blood globule, dodge out of the way. That is a constant thing, by the way, and it can be extremely annoying. Now when you pick up the soul core, you're going to get this debuff on your character up here, which is a stacking debuff, which is going to continually rise and do more and more physical damage over time, meaning that they really want you to return it to the pedestal quickly. Once you return 1 to the pedestal, you need to get the other 2, and they're always in different directions. So in this particular case, it looks like we've got 1 north and 1 south. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab it, and we're just going to slap them all on the platform. Now keep in mind here, if you die at any point during this run, it invalidates the whole run. Now you can leave anytime you want to, but the problem is you don't get access to the Ascendancy if you leave early. The only benefit of leaving early is you get to take the rewards with you, which most of the rewards just really aren't worth, like, your time. There's only really a couple rewards in here that are really worth it. The corrupted gear that he tries to give you is all garbage, and it's not worth anything. However, he does offer you sometimes soul cores, which are essentially sometimes very valuable. This one in particular is the soul core of Topo Tante. It gives you elemental resistances or elemental ailment threshold. It's not a absolutely horrible one. I think it's worth a mediocre amount. So we have more options. We have 40% less defenses, which is terrible. 40% less defenses is going to reduce your armor, evasion, and energy shield, which is massive. So it's just going to completely neuter all of your defenses. I do not recommend taking this one at all. Then we also have the escalating damage taken, which is in each encounter room, damage taken will be slowly increased by 1% per second up to 50% increased, which is also awful. Petrification statues is also awful. They're all awful options. Challenge area contains several statues that petrify you if you stand within their gaze for a duration. So out of these 3 options, this one is terrible and this one is terrible, which pretty much means escalating damage is the only one we can take.
The tide of death is rapid.
So now we're going to be fighting the first boss. It looks like we've got, judging by the look of this, is the corpse boss. So this is the corpse bird. And the corpse bird is relatively easy. He does a bunch of slams. Nothing too crazy. He tries to put some like poopy red stuff on the ground, which doesn't really, you just don't stand in it. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. He puts a lot of like little explosions all over the place, the blood globules from the effect. He also poops out a baby bird. So the baby bird that he poops out is an extra monster. As you can see, he puts a lot of like blood vomit all over the place. There's his little baby monster, the Plagueling. The Plagueling can be killed, but of course the Plagueling does come back. And then we also have, of course, the bird itself, which just, it's not really that big of a deal. This one's probably the easiest out of all of the bosses, like by far. In my personal opinion, I've never had like a hard time with the corpse bird, but I don't know. Some people seem to have trouble with him, and I don't know why. The next boss, well, the two bosses are different. So yeah, we've got 40% reduced life, mana, and recovery rate. This one is awful. I do not recommend taking this one. It basically reduces all of your recovery methods, life leech, your potions, your healing from any other sources. It's just absolutely terrible. I don't recommend that at all. Blood Globules 2 isn't awful, and monsters have 300% increased critical hit chance. Depending on how you're set up, you might be completely defended against critical hits. I think I'm going to pick the Blood Globules 2.
Drown in a sanguine flood.
I don't really like the blood globules, but I already have the blood globules, so beefing them up a little bit doesn't make them any worse, really. Like, you still have to dodge them. You still have to like do your best to prevent them from hitting you. So it's really just a matter of like, hey, are you going to dodge a big blood globule, or are you going to dodge an even bigger blood globule? I mean, they both suck, and yeah, but like, whatever.
I need more time.
I'm not particularly very fond of the way that they love to put like really annoying things on you here. I feel like a lot of the things that they offer you in this place is just like, hey, do you want this really annoying thing that chases you around, or this really annoying thing that chases you around? And it really, that's just the truth of it. There's even a little monster that chases you around and like slaps you down, and if you get hit like 7 times by him, you die instantly. He's called like the Grim Reaper or something. I can't remember. Maybe the option will pop up on the panel. Being very careful about what you choose in the Chaos run is definitely very important for like the overall, you know, like life of your character. If you choose the wrong things, you can pretty much just gimp your run. You can brick it instantaneously. Like, for instance, there is an option, if it does pop up, where basically it reduces your projectile speed and your area of effect, like, size. And if you're a character that relies on projectile speed and area of effect, it will completely destroy you. There's also options in there that will completely ruin your energy shield. There's options in there that will completely ruin your evasion and your armor. And showing you all the options might not necessarily be possible in this short run, but I can at least show you the ones that pop up and talk about them for the run.
Could hardly call that.
So there's the Stalking Shade. An invulnerable shade stalks you while inflicting ruin with its melee attacks. It fails the trial upon reaching 7 ruin. I do not recommend taking this one. It's very annoying, and it's really easy to fail your run. Impending Doom, we already talked about that one. And Burning Turrets. Challenge area contains turrets that will periodically fire projectiles ahead. I don't like this one at all. It's a very bad option. I'm going to show it to you. I don't really recommend ever choosing it, but I'm going to show it to you. It basically just puts turrets all over the place, and they just fire projectiles randomly into distance. There's a bunch of them. I think there's a lightning one, there's a fire one, and there's a bunch of other ones. But in general, like, I just don't really recommend ever picking the turrets. Not only are they not really good options, because they just simply fire projectiles all over the place, they also just kind of lag up the entire run. In these open areas, they're not as bad, but when you fight the bosses, the boss room will literally just have like a whole bunch of them in a circle around the arena, all shooting toward the center. Like, it's pretty trolly in how they like like line them up in the boss rooms to kill you. And there's very little you can do to avoid the effects, of course, so you just end up getting hit by all of them. Let's go ahead and grab the
I'm not ready.
other soul core. Thankfully, I'm over-leveled for this area entirely, so I'm not really taking a lot of damage. I'm pretty well stacked for this low-level zone. Plus, I'm thorns, and anybody that touches me gets their blood handed to them.
I can't yet.
So the next boss, I bet you it's probably the Chimera.
Halfway. Impressive.
All right, so we got another Topotante. Time paradox buff expires 3 times faster, and debuffs expire 3 times slower. This one's actually not horrible. It's not the worst thing in the world, but if you are relying on buffs or debuffs, it could be awful. I'm actually going to choose that one. I actually like that one. I don't really like the Stormcaller runes, but they're okay now. But Time Paradox is actually a really easy one to deal with. And it looks like we got the Chimera. So the Chimera is a little bit of a pain in the butt. My personal opinion, he bugs out all the time, and depending on the strength of your character, he does essentially all elements of damage. He does fire, cold, and ice, fire, cold, and lightning. He does fire, cold, and lightning because he has fire breath. He has cold attacks. He has all sorts of various things that he can do. He also has some pretty nasty physical slams as well. But more to the point is he likes to run away from you all the time, and he likes to apply elemental ground-based effects all over the place. So do be aware that he will constantly cause cold ground, physical ground, like, well, actually that's from the blood globules, ice ground, lightning ground, shock ground, essentially. And he flies all over the place, and he runs away from you the entire time, spreading these ground-based effects. Now, normally the ground-based effects are supposed to dissipate, but the problem is that these don't. So what ends up happening is that sometimes he bugs and he makes these shocked ground, ice ground, burning ground, etc., and they just stay forever. And if you don't kill him quickly, he will fill the entire battlefield with them, and he just flies all around, makes it very difficult for you to kill him. Obviously, if you can murder him really quickly, then that's one thing. But if he stays up for too long, he will just keep running these ground-based effects. He also does poison as well. So he does poison, fire, lightning, and ice-based ground effects. And sometimes, like I said, they just don't go away. So he'll just stack them until they're to infinity. And anywhere that you walk, you'll immediately get murdered. It looks like he killed himself on my thorns. Honestly, he's probably the second hardest out of the two. The Corpse Bird definitely being the easiest. Him being the middle ground. I usually don't have too much trouble with him now that I know all his mechanics, but you might have a little bit of an issue with him just because he runs all around all over the place and he's hard to lock down. The last one is the Windbird, and it looks like we didn't get the Windbird because we passed him by. We didn't go for the full run. We went for kind of the medium run. So as you can see, the gear that he gave me, corrupted, pre-corrupted. We've got a jagged spear, pre-corrupted, only has 4 mods, and we got some wraps, pretty poopy. I mean, the scepter is kinda okay-ish. Yeah, it's alrighty. The other 2 items aren't even worth picking up. Once you finish this, you get access to your loot, and then you also get access to the Ascendancy. Now, at any point during the run, I forgot to talk about this, you can just leave. You can take your winnings and you can leave. So if you find you get a really good soul core or something that you just don't really want to risk dying on, you can just take that and go. I got 2 soul cores of Topotante, which aren't really that crazy expensive. Once you get to the end of the Temple of Chaos, all the way at the end, there's a door. It looks just like this. And it essentially has 3 doojanks in it that you can put your cowardly fate, your victorious, and your deadly fate in to open up the trial room to fight the trial master. If you beat the trial master, you get your 4th ascendancy. This is the trial master. He's actually not really that difficult of a fight. You do need some good DPS, but for the most part, I didn't really ever feel like his fight was unfair or difficult in really much way. For the most part, you're probably only going to do the 1st and the 2nd, and maybe the 3rd. The 4th trial is definitely something that's going to wait until later. You're usually a much higher level by the time you get to the 4th trial, specifically because if you look at the 4th trial tokens, this one is level 77, this one is level 79, this one is level 79, this one is level 80. So, in general, by the time you're about ready to do your 4th ascendancy, you should technically be close to like level 75, 80, if not even higher than that. And this is basically kind of where you're sitting at. So for the most part, you do your 1st ascendancy, which is relatively low level, your 2nd ascendancy, which you do in Act 3, and then your 3rd ascendancy can be done relatively easily around like 50, 60. It's not even really that big of a deal. As you can see, I have a Gen BRA here at level 60. So you could run through and you could get your 3rd ascendancy at 60. Now, another way for you to get your ascendancy is to essentially pay for it. It's mainly just the Trial of Sekhemas. So let's go back to the Trial of Sekhemas real quick. I'm going to show you how this works in the Trial of Sekhemas and how you could potentially even pull your friends through on a higher ascendancy. So if you're in the Trial of Sekhemas, for whatever reason, let's just throw in a token here. And you decide at any point that you want to leave the Trial of Sekhemas, you can leave the Trial of Sekhemas and you can come back later. So to do this, I have to complete at least one room. So let's do one room real quick. All right, and once I've completed one room, I can go up to the panel. And down here in the bottom left, you see this little button that says Leave Trials. The trial progress will be saved, and you can return later. This essentially allows you to leave the trials and come back later, and you can invite other people to join you midway in the progress. So at any point, you can boot your trial back up, and you can enter again. If you don't like this particular trial and you'd like to cancel it out, you can go over here and you can hit End Trials, and all the progress will be lost. And anybody that you invite will come with you. Keep in mind that anybody you invite is also subject to all the same rules that you have in your trial. So if you have negative maximum honor or negative life or whatever's going on in your particular trial, it's also going to apply to the other people that are joining you, which can sometimes be a detriment. Joining for Trial of Sekhemas is the easiest way to sell, essentially, your trial run, and it actually is really common. There's websites and channels that are dedicated specifically to that purpose. The Forbidden Trove Discord is actually one of them, and as you can see here, they basically shout for sales. This one in particular is currently 4 divine for a run, and they will take you through the 4th floor of the Trial of Ascendancy and get you all 8 points for 4 divines. The price on this fluctuates from season to season. It is particularly high this season comparatively to previous seasons, but there also has been a fair bit of silliness in the overall, just in general, like, printing of currency this season due to some bugs in the Temple of the Val and whatnot. So there's a lot more divines floating around this season than in previous seasons, it seems like. But you can basically just message people and you can purchase one. You can also have one of your friends run it and pull you in, or you can run it yourself and pull one of your friends in. There's a bunch of different ways that you can potentially get access to it. Doing it yourself, running it with someone else. You could pay for it. There are also times where people will just offer, free runs, and they'll say, "Hey, does anybody want to come along for a free ascendancy?" And you just hop in and don't have to pay anything. Most of these are usually pretty quick, and they fill up very fast. In this particular case, it seems like it's slowed down a little bit, but It is what it is.
Blessings.
I think that pretty much covers everything. I mean, we could go over each individual boss and we could talk about them. I could go over each individual room structure and we could talk about each individual room structure. In general, you really just want to avoid things that are going to break your run entirely. Plan out your moves as much as you can. And this also comes into play with things like the relics. So there are relics that will offer you additional rooms. Like this one in particular gives you an additional room is revealed on the trial map. Some of them will let you reveal 1 ahead or 2 ahead or 3 ahead or so forth and so on, and can definitely help you a lot in terms of planning out your overall run. There's also ways that you can purchase, like from the merchant, you can purchase an option that will just literally let you see like all of the rooms, and you can plan out really easily with that. I've actually come across many times, like I said earlier, that I've had just like tons of buffs, minor boons and major boons, and just completely and utterly like obliterated a run. I've also had runs where I didn't get very lucky at all, and most of my stuff were negatives that were affecting me and negatively, and just made my run absolutely impossible. And that's unfortunately, this is how the cookie crumbles a lot of the times when you're doing this particular type of stuff. Um, I think that's pretty much it. If you have any specific questions about the Ascendancy, anything you'd like to know about like specific bosses or levels, I can try and answer those questions. I've already been going for 56 minutes on this, so I think this is pretty much it for now. I may do some more advanced videos on individual bosses and stuff, but like, I just wanted to cover like the Ascendancies, how they work, how you gain access to your Ascendancy points, and what you do for them. I also forgot to mention very quickly where you get your 2 tokens. I talked about Balbala, which Balbala is in Act 2, and of course you can find Balbala in the Trader's Passage. She's actually mentioned in there. But in Act 3, you actually get your free token from fighting the boss in Chimeral Wetlands, which is actually the Chimera, believe it or not. It's actually kind of funny. You go into Chimeral Wetlands, you fight a Chimera, he gives you a token. You go into the Chaos Temple, and you run your token, and inside the Chaos Temple, a lot of the times you end up fighting the same Chimera. I'm not even joking. You go Chimera to Chimera. And those 2 green tokens have unlimited tries. You can use them as much as possible. You can, however, get more tokens. I've shown you that as well. There's plenty of those that you can potentially get your hands on. You can purchase them from other people. You can trade for them. You can find them yourself. They're all over the place. They're various levels, and they offer into various different, well, like levels of ascendancy that you can potentially get. If you're ever curious about your Ascendancy stuff, you can always open up the panel, and up here there's the Ascendancy points, and you can hold Alt and click on this, and as you can clearly see, it says Ascendancy passive skill points can be allocated in your Ascendancy skill tree once you have chosen your Ascendancy. Your Ascendancy class is unlocked by completing any Ascension trial. In order to change your Ascendancy, you must complete an Ascension trial to the furthest extent you have successfully already done so, and then interact with the Ascendancy altar while you have no Ascendancy passive skill points currently assigned. Trial Master and Balbala will offer the ability to refund passive points while in rooms with Ascendancy altars to facilitate this. You can obtain 4 sets of 2 Ascendancy points for a total of 8 in the following ways. Step 1, completing the floor 1 of the Trial of Sekhemas, or completing Trials of Chaos with at least 7 trials. Step 2, completing floor 2 of the Trial of Sekhemas, or completing the Trial of Chaos. Step 3, completing the floor 3 of the Trial of Sekhemas, or completing the Trial of Chaos with at least 10 trials. And step 4, completing the 4th trial of the Trial of Sekhemas, or completing the Secret Door Challenge behind the locked door in the Trial of Chaos, which requires the cowardly and all the other little fates that we were talking about earlier. So the cowardly fate, the victorious fate, and the deadly fate. You need one of each of those to open up the hidden door so you can get access to the other stuff. As always, I appreciate you guys and gals watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you're enjoying the content. And as always, keep watching.